No, I think that's about it.
Hello and welcome. My name is Kelly Kingston, your host for the Business Today show. Tonight I have a very special guest joining me. Her name is Suzi Dent. Suzi Dent is an award-winning transformational international speaker. She is an MC, an author. She also is an interview coach, a TV and makeup artist, a mother and a wife. Please welcome Suzi Dent.
Hi everyone, how's everyone tonight? Thank you so much for having me on your show, Kelly.
You're more than welcome, Suzi. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
Oh, it's going to be fun. We're going to have a fun chat.
We are going to have a fun chat. Last time we had a fun chat, you were doing my hair and my makeup and that wasn't being recorded.
No, only when it was all finished at the end.
So Suzi, we're going to get right into it tonight. I'm going to ask you a series of questions which I had sent to you previously to pre-warn you so that there's no hairy, scary stuff happening here. So what I would absolutely love to know is, how did you get started in business?
I got started in business, actually, my first job, I was 12. I went up, I was quite a confident child, and I went to the local hairdressing salon where I used to have my hair done, called Paul and Elizabeth Coiffure. And they had a sign in the window, they were looking for an apprentice, Thursday night, Saturday morning girl. And I applied for the job. They didn't ask me if I was 15, so I didn't tell them. And I worked there every Thursday night and Saturday morning for 3 months, washing hair, taking out perm rods, sweeping the floor, answering the phones, watching everything. I absolutely loved it. And then somebody dobbed me in that I was only 12, so they had to let me go. But that was the beginning of my love for hairstyling, and makeup then led on after that. I realised when I read this thing the other day that if you think back to the person you were in high school and who you were, it would kind of tell you what your passions are now. And I thought about that and I thought, okay, so I was always the class clown. I was always either in front of the stage performing or backstage doing the hair, makeup and wardrobe. And that's what I do now, and that's what I've always done. So it's nice to know I'm living my passion.
That is so cool. So you have worked with a lot of television stars, performers, actors. Do you want to share that journey with us?
Oh, look, I started training in 1982. And I turned 1983, I turned 21, in the only makeup school in the country. So people travel from the whole of Australia and New Zealand. They'd move to Sydney, because I'm from Sydney originally, to study at this school. So the industry was a lot smaller back then. And what I learned, I moved out of home when I was 19, so I was living out of home. I had to support myself. I worked 3 jobs to put myself through makeup college, which was full time. So I was pretty tired at the end of it. I then put myself out there to get work in television. But then I realised, of course, that there's other people already working in television. You have to prove yourself. So I realised quite early on that to survive in business, as I have as a freelancer for 37 years now, you have to zigzag in business. So I got a job, I applied for a job to Shiseido, a skincare company working in department stores. But back then, the minimum age for women to work in department stores was 25, and I was only 21. So I went in and did a makeup test and did a really good job. So they decided to bend the rules a little bit and they hired me. I ended up becoming the best. I had the highest sales I did promotional work, right? So in front of the counter with the microphone, because I'm good on a microphone. Then I was sent all the way around New South Wales to country New South Wales to build up sales. So I worked in pharmacies and department stores. And for 2.5 years straight, I had the highest sales record for the whole of Australia. And I paved the way for them to start hiring younger women, which is great. So I've always been a little bit of a mover and a shaker. And then my career started moving forward in the TV industry, which is great. I got myself an agent, and my first job was working on a show called It's a Knockout, my first good job in television. And back then there was only 2 big production companies. There was Grundy's Television that did all the entertainment, like It's a Knockout and You've Got to Be Joking and Perfect Match. And there was Crawford's, who did all the drama, like Division 4 and things like that. So I ended up getting with them. And when I started working with Grundy's, I then went to all the television stations and they hired me because I worked with Grundy's. So I ended up working for all the TV stations, bar SBS, while still doing work after I finished work at Shiseido. While I was still doing it, I also kept zigzagging, you know, which is what everybody should do. I got work as a wardrobe assistant. So I worked for a fabulous wardrobe stylist who designed all the costumes for The Matrix. And I learned how to be a wardrobe stylist, how to shop, how to buy clothes, how to dress actors, how to make things. I learned how to shape shop so I could buy things to make fancy costumes and science fiction things. I also worked with a props lady as well. So I got to zigzag and keep working in the industry that I wanted to do and expanding my knowledge all the time. Because when you're first starting out, it takes years to actually get established. And I was living out of home, I had bills to pay, a car to run, you know, as we all do when we're first starting out. So every opportunity that came my way, I took, which was great.
Yeah, absolutely. So being in such a unique position, like zigzagging all the way through, what was one of the most exciting adventures? Like there has to be one that stands out for you, Suze.
Look, back in 1991, I did a lot of bridal work, which was great. And there was a big hole in the market for access to professionally trained hair and makeup artists. So I started the first hair and makeup agency in New South Wales. Excuse me, I ended up having 23 women on my books, which was great. Won multiple awards for my business and provided work for so many people. And again, started this new thing, which, because it all had to start back then, you know, and paved the way. Now there's agencies all over the place, which is great. I also had a cosmetics company. I'm a bit of a mad scientist, and I had my own lipstick range, which is really exciting. And I really enjoyed it back when Poppy had lipstick, and the same person that designed her lipsticks designed mine. However, when we look at business and we do business, if anybody's out there, if you're having a cosmetics fantasy, I'll just have to tell you, don't do it. You'll be digging yourself a financial minefield and a hole when you realise that Estee Lauder can pay $10 million just to launch one lipstick. Back then, our problem, I devised this fabulous, it was a lipstick palette. There was 10 of them. They were all in tonal shades. Nobody had made it before. But the problem was that beauticians weren't trained to sell products. Hairdressers were. You would always walk out of the salon, a hairdressing salon, with something, but beauticians weren't. And it was really hard to try to actually teach them how to sell as well. So I learned a lot about business with my cosmetic industry. And when we moved from my business, when we moved from Sydney, we brought it with us. So we kept working the business up here for 7.5 years, which was great. So I learned a lot about business then. I learned about marketing and advertising. I built websites, did all, you know, wrote all our copy, taught myself a lot, which is, you know, it just, every time you learn stuff, you keep using it as you go on, which is great. So I think those two achievements are really good, and I really enjoy that. And moving to Queensland, I had to start again in the film and television industry because nobody knew me because I was from Sydney. So when I had my child, I think after he was about 5, and I launched myself back in the industry. But because I had, I'd now become a hair, makeup and wardrobe stylist down in Sydney and created a niche market for people like me. They got a bit bored just powdering someone's nose and doing makeup. I get a bit bored. So I did wardrobe as well. And nobody was doing that. So I did that a lot in Sydney, which made me really employable, which is why my career had such a longevity. And when I started to get in Queensland, they'd never seen anybody like me. So I hit the ground running when I started back at work up here, which has been awesome. And then, you know, it's been a wonderful career. I've really enjoyed it. In the last couple of years, there's been big changes to the industry because when I was a little girl, I wanted to be an air hostess. Now all little girls want to be a makeup artist. So there's schools everywhere, and there's lots of young girls being churned out of these schools at a very expensive cost without really the right training in business to know what to charge correctly. So financially, the market has been completely undercut up here. And I have a lot of peers up here now, women who are very experienced and been doing it for like 20 odd years, who don't get their work because we've got these young ones that are charging nothing. And then they go out of business because they realize they can't actually replace the products in their kit, you know. So the industry has changed a lot. And the film and television industry is obviously only dependent on what's being filmed, which is why, you know, zigzagging and doing lots of things keeps you going. And then, so over the last couple of years, with the kind of decline in 2017, I realised that it was time for a change, and I completely transformed my life and changed my life. And I'm now working as a motivational speaker and an MC. All through my career, I've mentored makeup artists out of love, because I want them to succeed and do really well. I've had lots and lots of opportunities whenever I can to take students on set with me and in big fashion parades that I'm doing, so they get experience and they get photographs of their work so they can build their portfolio, because you're only as good as your portfolio. So I've reached the kind of, not the end of my career, because I love what I'm doing, but I've hit the pinnacle of my career and what I've been doing in television and advertising. I've had my work published, all my hair. I do avant-garde hairstyles, all these arty hairstyles, and they've been published all over the world and stuff. So now it's time for me to do something different, because I'm not very old yet, Kelly.
You're only very young, Suzi.
So yeah, so everybody at home, so about to turn 58 next month, and I'm a big believer that age is just a number, and you can do whatever you want to do if you put your passion in the right place and you really go for it, and don't let any preconceived ideas that you can or you can't hold you back, you know. And always try and find a niche market in your business. Yeah, at the moment, because I'm not doing brides, I decided I would do something else, which is tattoo coverage. I taught myself airbrushing. I found this amazing product that's finally been invented that I can cover people's tattoos with, especially brides, and it doesn't rub off any clothes, and it lasts for 3 days. And that's a niche market for me, because it's actually really, really specialised. And because I'm a special effects makeup artist as well, colour matching, it's a skill. So I don't have any competition from the young ones, which is great. So they can do all the beauty work for not much, and I can do all the specialised thing. So again, that's kind of my last zigzag, I think, in my makeup business, because I'm really passionate about helping people transform their lives.
Yeah. So, Suze, you've done, you know, television, hair and makeup. You've worked in some absolutely phenomenal corporations that have supported you over so many years. And now you're in a transformational stage in your life. You're an author.
I am an author. Yes, I am an author.
An international author.
I am an international author, yes. I wrote, it's my autobiography actually. I wrote my autobiography last year, and it tells the story. Of things that happened in my life, what it was like being a woman in the 80s, choices I made, and things that happened in my life. Sometimes, you know, we all have choices in life, right? And we choose, first thing in the morning, we choose whether we're going to get out of bed or we're going to, you know, flick the remote on. We choose what we're going to wear and what we're going to think. And sometimes our choices get a bit tangled up in the information that we receive. And a lot of the information that we receive at the moment is from social media and the news and the magazines and the posts that we read. And a lot of the things that we read are actually skewed in a quite negative, judgmental way. And I really feel that at the moment, the world has this generational juxtaposition happening between those who were raised in the pre-social media days and those who were raised with them, right? I'll give you an example of what I mean. Imagine, right, I'm just digressing a little bit here, but imagine that you're in a park. It's a beautiful green, beautiful day, and you're on these gorgeous trees, and you're sitting on one of 3 seats, and there's 3 women sitting over there on the other 2 seats, and it's a kids' playground, and there's 6 kids playing, and there's a couple of prams there, and you're sitting back, chilling out, enjoying watching the kids play, reading a trash mag, right? You see this old man shuffling down the path towards you, right? And old mate goes up to the pram where there's this gorgeous two-year-old sitting and goes to pat the kid on the head, right? All of a sudden, you hear one woman scream, "Don't touch my baby!" And the other one screams, "Get away from her, you pedophile!" And these women scramble their kids together, grab all their stuff, and bolt out of there. And as they're leaving, The 9-year-old turns around and screams at the old man, "You're a pedophile," right? Now, it turns out that old mate is into stage 3 dementia, right? He doesn't quite know how he got there. He's still wearing his dressing gown, and he's not quite sure where he is. He's a dad to like 5 of his own children, wonderful father, grandfather, and great-grandfather, right? But at this point in time, when he hit 80, he's getting more forgetful, and he's in dementia, and he starts to go wandering in the afternoons. So what he really needs is this poor, frail, really upset old man is our compassion and our kindness. And this is what's happening in the world today. We're seeing a generation brought up with a lot of this negativity. We see posts now online where people just have full-on slanging matches, you know, encouraging others who don't know anything about anything to get really angry and judgmental. And it causes this viral wave of negativity, you know.
Yeah.
But if people started looking at things in a different way, from a more compassionate way, I think things would be looked at a bit differently. And why I started with this, because in 2014, the collective consciousness of the world kind of changed, and we started hearing of historical sex crimes in the entertainment industry. And I was watching this program on a current affair, and I saw this young woman talking about coming forward in the Rolf Harris case, right? Because he sexually abused her as a child. And around the world, millions of people were in absolute shock and horror that this man that they'd grown up with, that they'd introduced their children to, this children's entertainer, artist to the Queen, friend of the royal family, you know, this wonderful man was being charged of these heinous crimes. So this woman was being really judged, and people were really getting on their high horse. And unfortunately, when we get angry about something, it causes us to have self-righteousness, and in their indignation, they blame the victims, right? Now, when I watched this story, I had a choice to make, right? I knew that I had information that could help this woman and support her, because I too had been assaulted by Rolf Harris when I was working as a makeup artist in 1986 for him at Channel 7 Studios. So I had a choice to make. Would I come forward to support this woman that I didn't know and put myself out there to be hated and judged by millions of people around the world, or wouldn't I? What would you do if you're in my position, you know? I came forward to the British police and I told them a few choice things, because I decided that I would come forward, because it was the right thing to do, and I'd never kept it a secret. So I told every man his dog. So I'd be a complete hypocrite if I didn't come forward. And I saw this woman being judged online, and she was being bullied by the press, and that's no good. So I had to write a letter to the judge to say to him how I felt about my name being released to the press around the world. And I pretty much said to him that if he felt that that was okay, then that was fine. But as far as I was concerned, if those of us who knew the truth didn't come forward, then these women were being judged all over again. So I was chosen to be a witness for the prosecution over in England, and took the stand. And the next day saw me in the papers, the newspapers, the nameless, faceless me, because we were all granted lifetime anonymity, which was great. I was named as like the strongest witness for the prosecution. We went on to, because of the bravery of the witnesses who came forward, I was a bad character witness. I wasn't someone who'd been sexually assaulted by him. We won the case, and he was sentenced to 5 years and 9 months. That saw this shift in the world, where historical crimes were being brought forward, and women all around the world were standing up for each other, in support of each other. And we've seen men like Bill Cosby and now Harvey Weinstein being taken to court. And this has been called the Me Too movement. It's started this huge movement for women all around the world, and huge shift and changes happening in workplaces all around the world. It's a very, very important time for women. And my story really about that in my book is one of choice. You know, what do we choose, and what's the journey like? And part of my book also talks about what it was like being found the next day by the BBC and hounded by the press from all over the world, what my journey was like, what happens when the press lie to you, which they do, and manipulate you, what happened in the courtroom, the emails, confidential emails between me and the police, because I want to encourage people to come forward. They don't have to come forward and stand up in front of the whole world. Sometimes you can come forward just for your neighbour and make a difference. But my message is really to look at life with more compassion and kindness instead of the way that we're always shown in this negativity and judgment thing that we know nothing about. And when we have compassion and think about things from compassion, a compassionate sense, we look at both sides of the story and we can look at things from a more equal way. So we tend to have a much better view of the world and how it works. As a speaker and an MC, going to India in April to the Women's Economic Forum, where there was 2,000 women from all around the world, being able to tell my story and talk about the Me Too movement was very empowering for me and for the women in the room, which was great. There was 2 women that got up and shared their stories for the very first time. I'm so humbled to have been given an international award for a woman of substance, which is great. My makeup career helped me in my speaking career because I was also a lecturer, and I've always, starting with, when I was young with the microphone. So I've always been very comfortable with that. But now with my life behind me, what life I have behind me, I have a lot more knowledge and a lot more wisdom. And we're at this time in life that I want to share this. And it's important. And I think when we have something to say and we have that we can help other people's lives with, that's a really good thing.
So, in saying all that, Suze,
I wanted to cover both sides, kind of who I am as a speaker and who I was as a makeup artist.
There is no time limit here. Okay, we do have an hour, but we can go over if we do need to. So that's no drama. So you've written your biography, your book's out there.
Yeah.
What is one of the most amazingest things that have come of you finishing your book and now you're sitting there and you're going, oh my gosh, what next? What's happening?
Oh, look, it has been an amazing
ring.
journey. I did an interview with a ABC 7:30 report, and it was to talk about my story in my book. From that, I got contacted by a book publisher. I'd recorded my audio book and I did it myself, and I'd also put an ebook together, and I was contacted by a book publisher to publish the paperback copy of my book, which is so exciting because it's just like in the movies when they come to you. So I'm not going to say who now.
No, that's okay. I'm glad you said that because I was about to say something and I was like, oh no, better not.
Yeah, I don't want to say who yet. And I also got a speaker's agent who are supporting me as well on my journey to take my message out to businesses around the country, which is great. I work as an MC now, which is awesome because I'm a funny chick and I really love being an MC and entertaining people. So I get a lot of charity gigs and I get to host women's events, and it's really me being in my complete dharma. I'm also the host of a live talk show called The Couch Out Loud on the Gold Coast, which is full-on audience participation. So I get to play with a whole audience and all these fabulous guests, which is great. So in this incarnation of my life, I'm living a really passionate life, but it's just full of a lot of joy. I've had press in the UK. I've been in women's magazines because of my book and my story. And I came out recently and waived my anonymity to draw attention to the fact that Australia has had a win, because the Me Too movement and women's rights are kind of slowing down here. Whereas in England and America, they're really ramping up. And the reason is, thank you for asking, is our defamation laws in our country do not support victims coming forward. So the organisation called Now Australia, that's set up to support women coming forward and men coming forward, have nowhere for them to go and actively discourage them to not come forward and tell their story because of our laws. So we need to support this organisation, and we need to, as a collective, get the law changed so we can continue to move forward and not be stuck back in the past where we've escaped from. So that's my mission.
Yeah, I was going to say that. This is your mission if you have chosen to accept it, and you've chosen to accept it Like,
I did.
give me that.
And Kelly, you know what the thing is I've got a whole lot of women and men that are really supportive of me coming forward and really supportive of change in our country. And as far as I'm concerned, why not? Why can't we make our voices be heard to have change and leave something behind for the next generations so that they can move forward and have a more equitable workplace?
Yeah. Now, before we go any further, Suze, we have to go back a couple of years, okay? When you were announced, I'm going to let you say it, you had a crown placed upon your head and you became the...
Mrs. Earth Australia
Mrs.
in 2017.
In 2017.
2017.
Yeah. Miss Earth Australia. Mrs. Sorry. Yes. I have heard the story, but I would absolutely love for you to share this with everyone. And don't forget to leave out the swimsuit area. Okay, because I found that to be absolutely bloody hilarious.
Look, this is when my transformation started. I was in a bit of a Groundhog Day with my life, and I needed to change my life. And I started listening to motivational stuff, and they said you've got to make yourself uncomfortable to really have change, you know. And if you really, really manifest what you want and hold it in your head and in your heart, that it'll make it happen. So I thought, okay, I'm a good manifestor. I always get the car spot, you know. At the time, unfortunately, my family, my husband was suffering from depression and anger management, and we were in year 6. Life was pretty bad. Business was suffering, and I really needed to do something to change my life because it was starting to really. It was not fun. So I put it out there. I wanted to be in front of the camera rather than behind the camera for a change. Because I forgot to mention I was also a rock chick in the 90s, and I used to sing in bands. I'm really comfortable performing, right? 2 weeks later, I got a message via Messenger from this woman from the Mrs. Earth Australia competition, beauty pageant, right? And she said to me, we think you'd be a really good fit. And she's seen me on this site, this free site called Star Now. And I cacked myself laughing and fell on the floor. And after I picked myself up off the floor, I got back to her. I said, oh, thanks, babe. That's just, you've just made my month. But not only am I 55, which I was at the time, but I don't wear dresses. You know, I'm like the anti-beauty queen, you know, make them all up all the time, but I'm not one, you know. And she said, no, older women go in the competition. And I thought, all of a sudden I realized, oh, now I'm a big believer in life sending us signs, right? And you've got to pay attention when they come, because they come all the time. Sometimes they're little whispers and sometimes they're big loud things like this was. And I thought, okay, I'm being sent a message here. Let's just have a little look. I checked them out, and they supported this charity called Souls for Souls, who collected new and used shoes from us to give to people here who didn't have any and around the world. And as a wardrobe stylist and someone who was right into secondhand, that really, really appealed to me. And I realised that I was having my very own sliding doors moment. I could stay where I was and to the door to the right and wake up crying and be miserable, or I could take the door to the left and completely change my life and say yes to this opportunity. So I said yes. And I jumped in with great gusto. The thing about me though is I know that wearing a dress for me was very psychologically difficult. I hadn't worn dresses for 30 years. It was really difficult for me to put on a dress or anything fitted, because I lived dressed like a tomboy all the time. I learnt to dress down when I was younger because I was raised by a mother who was a narcissist who had jealousy issues. And if I covered up my legs and my body, she was kind of a little bit happier. And then I kind of went through life like that because I actually seemed to move through life safer, because back in the 80s, men like to touch you as well. So this is where I stayed, right? But putting on a dress was difficult. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to have to do this. I practiced wearing high heel shoes on the carpet. They're like this big, really difficult, because you can't fit orthotics in high heel shoes, right? I approached this business called Bridal Australia with this great idea. Now I'm a member of Bridal, and I went along after I got my finalist sash, my little tiara, with my one pull-on stretch target skirt, right? And a little t-shirt and flat shoes, actually boots. And I went up to them and had a meeting. I said, okay, so you guys, Bartercard, you sponsor men who drive fast, hit fast, and run fast. What about a middle-aged beauty queen collecting shoes for charity? And he loved the idea so much. He said, yes. And my idea was the Bartercard Australia opened their offices, opened their doors to people as drop spots for shoes all over the country. They love the idea so much. They love the idea of the shoes. So they did that. My husband has a transport company. So he got involved because then he got to ship the shoes to Adelaide where the company was. So that was a little bit of different in his life as well. So it was like this really nice little respite from our Groundhog Day that we were living in. Bartercard sponsored me as their Australian ambassador. I got PR for free. So there was newspapers all around the country. I got to be on Sunrise and on television. People were quite interested at the tomboy turned beauty queen. I went down to Melbourne where the finals were on as the oldest competitor. I did the interview section. There wasn't a swimsuit section down there. We had to make a costume out of recycled material and we had to wear a gown. Now I'd had this gown made for me. And apart from never wearing dresses, I don't go sleeveless and you never see my cleavage, right? So I had this dress made and it had sleeves, but it had sheer material across the chest. And I looked down and you could see my skin and I completely burst into tears because it completely freaked me out. So she got really lovely lady. She got these appliques because she kept saying, don't look down. I go, God, I can see it. I can see it. Don't look down, don't cut. So she stuck appliques on so I couldn't see my cleavage and I was more comfortable, which was great. So I glided out there in my Cinderella moment, did my thing on stage, and I won the first Mrs. Earth Australia, which was awesome. I'm driving back to the airport doing press in the car on the way back, which is great. 3 months later, I was to find myself in Vegas, but on the way, I did a lot more. I had public appearances to do. I had the charity to support, which was great. I was raising tons of shoes for the charity, which is wonderful, and practicing speaking and walking in the high heel shoes because I won these shoes, which I call my hooker heels. No offense to hookers, because really, ladies, you can walk in these. It makes me 6 foot tall. It's really good. And the bottom is like tiny little bottom. So I'd practiced for 2 weeks. I stood at the end of my bed on the carpet because I thought I'd bugger a knee for sure. And then I'd try and walk on the carpet. I look like a Thunderbird because I was hanging on, you know. And then I moved to tiles. And then I taught myself how to glide. So I practiced in their shoes every day. I did a lot of research online because I like to win, right? About pageantry, because pageantry in America is huge, right? It was funny, when I went down to Melbourne, there was another lady who there was a similar age to me, lovely lady. And I said to her, so what do you do here? And she said, oh, look, I really like all the young girls. It's really fun. And I said, oh, that's great. I said, I'm here to win. And she was like, oh, okay. Which is great. So you've got to have the right mindset when you want to be a winner. So I visualized myself every day in Vegas winning the crown, as I did before I went to Melbourne. Suzi Dent, Mrs. Earth Australia. And I didn't let my age bother me at all because it wasn't about age, but I was competing with women who were married and they could be 21. So I find myself in Vegas, right, with 36 women from around the world who'd all competed in their states to represent their country in the third biggest pageant system in the world. So I didn't pick anything dinky, right? They had a gown section and they had an interview section, which is my favourite, and they had a swimsuit section. This is Kelly's favourite bit. Mine too, right? Now there's no way I was going to wear a bikini out there because, you know, I can't wear cleavage, not the bikini on stage. So I thought, and you could choose aerobic gear or swimwear, but I knew that you actually get marked down a bit if you wear swimwear. So my husband and I came up with this idea. We had a Bond girl inspired scuba suit made that had sleeves, so it was comfortable. It had a little boy leg. It had a zipper up the front and a collar. It was kind of carved in with a darker blue. So it was a swimsuit, right? Technically, I strapped a dive knife to my bicep, a dive knife to my thigh, a belt with a dive knife, got out there in my hooker heels, strutted to the end of the stage and went, rah! And I scored, from the judges have never seen anything like it, neither have anybody else. I scored 3 10s and a 9.5, which is amazing. And I changed things then for the Mrs. Earth competition because they loved what I did so much. They realised that women didn't have to wear swimwear with a little thing, that they could actually, you know, think outside the box. So that was really good. I ended up standing on stage, just like you see in the movies and on TV, being one of the final 6, getting to go out there and talk with the microphone and be judged on the, your 3 minutes that you have to say, which is wonderful because I had this whole, I was very confident in my journey. I had this wonderful charity support, so I had a really good message, which was great. So I'm standing on stage and I ended up hearing my name called third runner-up. I thought I came third, but I got third runner-up out of all these women. It was the most amazing thing. I crowned and sashed. I came home to 2 hours later to being filmed by Sunrise in my house. I've now been on Sunrise 4 times. I've been on the Today Show. I had press all the way around the world, the Tomboy to Beauty Queen story. I think this is, I'm so normal. And people seem to relate to, not wearing dresses and falling off high heel shoes. It's been an amazing journey. And the wonderful thing is by me overcoming my fear of wearing frocks, I really found my true authentic self. I also found a group of women over there. I didn't think I would get on with anyone because I'm, not that sort of a chick, but I am now. I had an amazing time. Being the oldest, I ended up having a gang of women, England, New Zealand, Fiji, all of us. And so I had a group building session. So because this is very important when you're in business, group building. So the first night, before we had to wear our sashes, right? So we weren't technically started yet. Had to go out and see the Chippendales. The must-do thing when you're in Vegas is to go to a strip show. We all participated. It was wonderful. We bonded so well. Had the best week together. And bar one, all 6 of us went home with sashes and crowns and titles, which is amazing. However, my journey is I didn't need to come first. It didn't matter about winning to me. I've done more with third runner-up than anybody's done with first place in the world because I was just so excited to be there. And the great thing about my journey again is older women have seen my story. I've had many come forward to me and say, "You've really inspired me. And if you can do it, I can do it." And they've joined pageantry and changed their lives and been able to support their charities and raise their platform and get more confident with their public speaking and build more confidence within themselves and raise their self-esteem. It's a wonderful industry. People might think it's all about just looking pretty and wearing a dress, but it's every pageant girl works tirelessly in their communities for their charities. For young girls and young women, it's like a finishing school. So I can guarantee you that when your daughter's on pageantry, she'll be the one that nails that job interview when she goes for it.
I'm sure she would. She doesn't lack in confidence one little bit. My 16-year-old does, my 5-year-old does not. I reckon my 5-year-old will get a job before her 16-year-old because she is just one, oh my gosh, she's just one confident little girl that will just strut her stuff in front of anybody.
Well, it's all about confidence.
Totally.
I'd loved a job at 12 because I was confident and they didn't even think to ask me if I was 15 and hired me on the spot, Your daughter will do the same thing.
Yes.
We see lots of young women out there now making a stand and having their voices heard, don't we? It's wonderful. Again, the age is just another thing. It's not just when you're older, it's also when you're younger, Doors can open for you when you're a confident person when you're younger and you can break the barriers of the younger person age, which is good.
Absolutely. They just have to take a leaf out of your book, hey, Suze.
Well, there's a few leaves there you can choose from.
Yeah. Here. You have a couple of choices, kiddies. Just take something out of this. One of them. Anyone. Just take one. Anything. Okay, so you have dizzled and dazzled in all different aspects of, film, television, being on stage, not only presenting, behind the stage, putting makeup on, the beauty pageant, you've been and done so much. So what's next for you? After all this, we put it in a bowl, we mix it up. What is coming out for Suzi in 2020? What is Suzi putting her fingers and feet and everything into?
Right, well, what I'm aiming towards this year is to increase my MC work because it's an industry that doesn't have as many women in it as it does men. and not as many funny women, which is great. So I'm really promoting myself as an MC on the Gold Coast and to businesses around the country because I really enjoy doing it, and I know I bring a lot to the room when I'm there. The other thing I'm doing is as a speaker, the message that I just told you, which was my abbreviated message about spreading kindness and compassion and speaking to people about how to choose how to think and help them practice more mindfulness so they will transform their lives and the way they think, is the message that I'm taking to corporate Australia this year. The other thing I've decided to do is I'm going to become a TED speaker. So I'm aiming towards that, because why not? Because I've got a really good message and I want to share it, and I want to share it to the world, and that's what TED is all about. And so that's where I'm going to go, because all through my life I've aimed high. I like to aim high because you know what? When you aim high, you often reach it.
That's exactly right. So that's amazing. So you're going to be doing a lot more MC work, and you want to be a TED talk. You want to do a TED talk. So where's the next TED talk? Where like obviously been following it a little bit. How do you?
The next TED talk's in Sydney. The next TED talk's in Sydney. So I'm going to apply for that. But I think there's it's quite a wait list, obviously. But when I did look at TED and the people, I also want to. You can kind of join to be part of their what do they call it? Their fellow. You become a TED fellow and you apply to be a fellow. And the people that are part of that are just like me. They're artists and they're thinkers, and they're not necessarily big business people. They're more worldly, so they're looking at life from a different perspective sometimes, you know what I mean? And I fit into that category really well as to who I am as a person and how I move through my life and the way I've conducted myself and the message I have for others. So that's where I'm aiming, and I think that's a nice high pinnacle for me to reach this year, apart from having a book launch when my paperback novel is actually out, and then I'll be able to talk about that as well, which would be lovely.
Outstanding. Hey, Suzi, Hey, Suzi. Hello. That was Siri. That wasn't me. That was Siri. Through your career, what has been one of your toughest struggles to face? And this message, I suppose, is really personal, because you know that the Business Today show supports businesses that are just starting, or they're struggling coming into their first year, 3 months, 6 months into their business. What has been one of your biggest struggles to, you know, really push through, to strive through to the other end, that you can offer to anybody that's watching this show?
I think the biggest struggle is when you find yourself at a place and you've been moving forward quite nicely with your business, and all of a sudden things start to slow down. And the struggle is in figuring out why, really understanding your market, and again, finding your zigzag. You can never stick in the same lane when you're self-employed. You always have to expand to other things. I think, I've learned hard lessons in all the business that I've done. The cosmetic business was very labour intensive, that I did wearing a papoose with my baby, which was full on. 2 weeks after cesarean, I'm up there doing party plan. Even working on for like knowing where to promote yourself, going and seeking a business mentor is probably, I think, the wisest and smartest thing you can do when you're first starting out in business. Speaking to someone who is older and wiser than you, that has a lot of experience, that can lead you there so fast, is the right thing to do. You know, I had to advertise my business when I first started the old-fashioned way, because there was no internet or anything like that. So when I wanted to work as a bridal makeup artist, I went round with my husband to every single bridal dress shop in the metropolitan area with my flyers. And they weren't fancy flyers, they didn't have pictures on. I went and introduced myself, told them who I was, what I was doing, asked them if they'd use my flyers, and offered to pay them 10% from any leads I got from their company. This is the old-fashioned way of building a business. I had a couple of shops that I would go over and I'd pay them, and we developed such a wonderful business relationship. They'd refer me, I'd refer them, and I built my entire business on the strength of referrals, which was wonderful. Apart from other things, you know, like advertising, magazines, trade shows are really good depending on what you do. Face to face is always the most potent way to get a sale in any business, regardless of what you do. People want to meet you, they want to do business with you, they want to feel your vibe.
Yeah. So in kind of one message from what I got out of that, your biggest struggle was being versatile in your business and trying to be more than the one person that, you know, that you could promote your unique talents. You needed to then kind of withdraw a little bit and pick up little bits and pieces that you really didn't know what you were doing, but you did them because you knew that it needed to be done, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And sometimes you just have to, even if you doubt yourself and you fear what you're doing, you just have to push through it. Because if you don't try stuff, different ways of doing business, different ways to advertise, and again, if you don't seek advice, you can make some costly mistakes. That's why I said, don't go into making skincare. Costly mistake. So if anybody out there, if you're having a cosmetic fantasy, please, I'll put my number on the bottom of the screen. Contact me. I'll talk you out of it, you know. But it's also, it's being smart in business. So I deal with barter card as well. We didn't have much luck selling cosmetics in the real world, but joining barter card was a whole untapped market of sales where I had no competition. We did so well in barter card that we ended up using money to buy a house. We bought cars, bought houses, looking at an alternative way of doing business depending on what you do, and an alternative way of actually building your business. Again, is like zigzagging. You can't just think it won't come to you unless you go and find it. So you have to be creative in your thinking and always think outside the box in whatever you do. Don't let anybody stick you in a box. If you've got ideas, figure them out and go for it, because you might start a new wave or a new trend of something. You never know until you try.
Exactly right. So Suzi, where can people find you if they want to, you know, hire you for an international MC job?
That would be lovely. Thank you very much. I've traveled business class once now and I'm totally addicted, just putting that out there. There's nothing. I was in a pod. It was amazing. You got to sleep. It was great. You got off the other end of and you looked refreshed because you'd slept. And you had different food. Very exciting. I got to try. No, anyway, that would be another story. People can reach me on my website, suzident.com. That's SUZIDENT.com. I love being an MC. I think on my feet. I'm very good at ad-libbing, and I also have a wonderful message to share with your businesses. If anybody, I'm also an interview coach. I coach people to go to interviews, especially young people, young women and men first starting out. I coach them. I'm a pageant interview coach as well. So because the pageantry is nailed in interview, I help my girls nail their interview, and also for the workplace as well. So just contact me to say hi. That would be lovely.
That is so cool. And obviously you're on Facebook.
I am on Facebook, Suzi Dent International Speaker, or Suzi Dent. And if you're want to talk, ask questions to the hair and makeup artist, me, I'm more than happy to give you any information to get into the industry and help you on your way. And you can find me on Suzi Dent Hair and Makeup Artist. Instagram, Suzi, SUZIHMUA.
So that's Suzi H.
M, so hair makeup artist. HMUA.
Of course.
Oh, sweaty.
It is a bit sweaty tonight. It's just started raining here. So
I'm here in my studio. So let's have a look around really quickly. You want to see?
Yeah. Of course I do.
Here we go. Look, have a look around. There's some photos.
Oh my gosh. Turn around and show the ones with those big puffy hairstyles that you did.
So here's one.
Yeah,
so
I love
all
that.
wired together. This one down here. It's been published all around the world. So this is the one, the avant-garde one. So these are avant-garde hairstyles, hair art. Hair art. So there you go.
What about that one that you plaited and you stayed in bed?
Oh, yeah.
Your hair.
Okay, so this here, it took me 7.5 hours to actually weave that hairpiece. This is a nod to the 1940s and the 1970s. So this hair has all been crimped and poodle perms like it used to be back in the day. So that one's been published as well. It's a bit of a historical thing. I was having, as an artist, I go through things and I have creative moments, and I have these huge hair moments. And I had these two wonderful young muses that I was working with, those two young girls. And the girl with the blonde hair had 3 times as much hair as a normal human, and right down, you know, almost to her bottom. So I just got to create the most amazing styles with both of them. And then once I'd kind of got it all out of my system, I was done. Yeah. As a lot of artists and creative people out there know, once you've got all your creative, once you've done it, and then you move on to the next thing, you know. So, and then I'm a miniature artist as well, aren't I? With the, you know, the Leukemia Foundation Be Brave and Shave campaign. I'm the artist who created all the miniature handmade wigs and wardrobe for 9 years from year 2 of that campaign. So I think when you're creative, you can do a lot of things. When you can, you know, you just do stuff.
We could talk.
That's my favourite campaign. We could talk for hours, couldn't we? And I've got no idea what the time is.
It's fine. So I have one last question for you, Suzi. If you could change something in your life, what would have it been?
Oh, I'd have to give you a personal answer to that one, and it would have to be that my husband didn't get depressed, and we didn't have to go through that, and he didn't have to go through all that period, that 7 years of time, which was really difficult to go through. So I'd have to wish for that, if I could wish for that. Not a business thing, but a personal thing. Because when personal things happen to you like that, it affects you in life and it affects you in business as well. So that would be my thing.
Yeah, no, I have no idea what that is like at all. I cannot say that I've ever experienced anything like it.
A lot of people have, though. They either suffer it themselves, or their spouse suffers, or they're older and they have older kids that might suffer from depression or anxiety or anger problems. And when you're in a family, it has that wave that affects everybody. So that would be my one I wish that didn't happen thing, because that certainly held me back and held my husband back and made us broke. But life sends us all on these journeys at all different stages in life. Yes. So on the one hand, I've had this happen, and on the other hand, I have had the most amazing, wonderful things happen in my life that I'm so grateful for, and I'm on this fantastic journey. So out of bad, it always comes good. It just depends how you look at it.
Exactly. And on that note, Suzi Dent, you're an absolute legend. You're the goddess of all goddesses of Mrs. Earth Australia. Thank you so much for being so intimate and honest, authentic, and congruent with absolutely every aspect of your life. I am extremely grateful to have had this time with you. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon, and having a glass of wine at Melissa Groom's birthday party next weekend, I believe.
Sounds like a plan, babe. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to talk to you, and to all everybody that's watching. It's just wonderful. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much. My name is Kelly Kingston, your host of the Business Today show. This show is brought to you by the Wellness Business Academy. Have a beautiful day, night, evening, wherever you are in the world. And we do hope that you got something out of Suzi Dent's message tonight. Thank you so much. Bye for now.